Hey there, OCB Communications, live from Michigan, and I decided to say fuck it, I'm going to make a review with this 320p video. If it turns up, however it turns up on YouTube, that's all I gotta say. This crappy video quality is actually pretty fitting for this crappy movie called After Midnight, which is a movie that I was actually looking forward to. It's a movie that I kind of didn't mind the trailer. It's a horror anthology. I like horror anthologies. You know I like horror anthologies. And this movie's a piece of shit! It's fucking terrible! It's one of the worst fucking movies I've seen lately. See my ass from behind or whatever. I wish I could shit on this movie because it would deserve it. Seriously, this is absolutely one of the worst fucking horror anthologies I've ever seen. This is VHS before VHS, but it was released in 1989. It's just as pointless. It's just as shitty. It has just as terrible stories. I gotta calm down, otherwise I'm going to fucking rip the walls down. Alright, After Midnight's a 1989 film. It's written and directed by Ken and Jim Wheat, who did a pretty shitty job directing and writing this piece of shit, especially writing. This is one of the most poorly written fucking excuses for a fucking horror film and a horror anthology I've seen. The reason for the wraparound doesn't make much sense. There's maybe one thing, maybe two things I didn't mind about this movie. The rest, maybe three, and the rest is absolute pure dog dick. Anyway, yeah, there's this guy named Professor Edward Derrick who shows up in the beginning of the movie, and it's all about the psychology of fear. Fear 101. And he pulls out a gun to try to test people's fear, test this jock's fear. He pisses his pants because the teacher's playing a game of Russian roulette. That's the one moment this film had any sort of suspense. And I think the actor who plays him is... I don't really fucking know. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't use internet. I have no internet signal on right now, so I can't use IMDb to look up who starred and what. I can't. I really don't. Who played who, and I don't have that. So if you want to find out who played this professor, this guy right here, you're just going to have to look it up on IMDb yourself, because I got nothing. But anyway, so he's kind of weird anyway, and he sets up this thing and plays Russian roulette with this jock, makes him piss his pants in fear, and then he runs out of the room like a bitch, the jock. Then the guy shoots himself. You think he killed himself, but he finds out it's a squib. It was all part of the plan. It's all a joke. It's all a way to get people involved. And so the pee pants, which I like to call pee pants, he goes in and gets pissed, and he talks to the superintendent of the college and gets the class changed, the curriculum changed, gets the teacher in trouble. Because he made me piss my pants. Ugh. And so then the teacher changes everything, says, alright, now you have to have books to read, and you're going to be tested on what you read in these books. And by the way, also, though, if you want to know the real true meaning of fear, then come over to my house after midnight. So a lot of these kids agree to do it, and they go over, and they start telling stories. That's it. How are you going to teach us fear? Teach? Oh, I'm going to just tell some horror stories. And the stories they tell are so shitty that it just boggles your mind. Why are these stories being told? These stories are awful. These stories aren't scary. These stories wouldn't scare a 2-year-old. These stories are so fucking terrible. I've seen better horror stories told in Erie, Indiana. Scarier stories, too. I've seen scarier stories in SpongeBob SquarePants than the stories in this movie. So the first story is this stupid tale where Marc McClure, he has the same Marc McClure who played Jimmy Olsen in the Superman movie. He's stuck slumming in this movie. He's with another friend of his girlfriend. Their car has a flat tire, and they decide, hey, instead of walking to some place to get some help, I don't know, let's go break into the abandoned murder house where 5 people got murdered in it. So the girlfriend is desperate and breaks in, Gets through a window. Marc McClure goes in there. You have a lot of slow-moving, boring-ass shit where nothing happens. He sees a couple skulls, some bugs crawling around, and that's enough to make him think he needs to grab a fucking sword. Then he sees this weird-ass, I guess it's supposed to be the killer who took hedge clippers and decapitated people, but it just absolutely looks fake. And you find out it's the wife or the girlfriend is fucking, I think it's a wife. She's wearing an outfit and she's doing a horror birthday party for some reason. It's a horror-themed surprise birthday party. Surprise! You think you're gonna die. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? I like horror films, but I do not, absolutely do not want to have a birthday party themed around horror films. Who does that? Who makes a horror-themed surprise birthday party? So what happens? Marc McClure decapitates his wife with the sword. And that's the end of the story. Of course, you hear from the professor guy that he killed himself with some scissors because of the grief. But yeah, that's your first story. That's a real winner, isn't it? Full of just stupidity galore. Like, it's a really shitty version of that Tales from the Crypt episode, Three's a Crowd, with Daniel Harley. That's a much better version of this story. I don't care if this movie predated that story in that episode. It still did a better job than this shit, than Marc McClure. And plus the decapitation was in slow-mo, so it looked absolutely ridiculous. So now we go into the second story, which is kind of tied in with this stuff from the outside where P. Pants goes grabbing an axe and trying to get into the professor's house and get some revenge. So we have the second story, which is the longest one, and probably the shittiest, where you have this group of fucking Valley girls who decide to go and drive around looking for some club to party in the warehouse district. Of course, they don't find Jack, and they get out and they decide to go into some abandoned fucking house, and they find this guy, who I like to call fucking Captain Caveman, or the Geico insurance salesman caveman guy, and he finds him and his 3 dogs, and he's not a nice guy, so tries to go after the girls, who you don't give a shit about any of them because they're annoying. Right from the beginning of the segment, you have Bitch Tits, who's complaining and bitching at her friends, and so you're like, great. One of the friends who's driving is like, I'd rather, why are we in the warehouse district looking for a club? Why don't we just go home and rent a movie? Yeah, why don't you go home and rent a movie? And make sure it isn't after midnight, because then that's an absolute waste of your time and money. But really, why don't you go home and watch a movie? Yeah, it's a better idea. It's safer. And drive around in a warehouse district in the slums, looking for fun for some reason. And the girl's also like, I don't know where I'm going. And just like, oh, what? You don't have a map? You don't know where you're going? Why are you driving? It's like, why do I give a shit about these bitches? So then they go in and they encounter this guy, encounter Captain fucking Caveman. And he's not a nice guy. He's not there to solve crimes. He's there to kill him. Tries to kill him, try to be intimidating, but it's not believable. And what happens is they knock his ass out, and they get in the car, and they get chased by his dogs. And then the dogs, that becomes the rest of the fucking segment. It's like killer dogs. I'm like, what are these dogs on? Fucking crack? What are these chicks hiding? Are they hiding fucking veal in their pussies or some shit? Is that why fucking the dogs are going after them? The dogs are like, you smell good, bitch. I need to go and eat some meat. Dogs don't act like this. These dogs are acting like they're just searching for meat and hidden in these women's snatches or some shit. So they drive away. The dogs are chasing after them. And one dumb girl, this dumb girl gets out of the car, decides to run away. I'm better off running away in open with these dogs. And she's so stupid, she doesn't even take the opportunity to fight back or hide behind a car that she runs by so the dogs can run by. It's like, what does this segment think these dogs are? These dogs are supernatural? So they never explain they're supernatural. Do these dogs have fucking superpowers? Never explain they have demonic superpowers or anything like that. Are these dogs on crack? Why are these dogs so gung-ho about eating these women? Like, that's why I think they must have veal or some shit in their snatches. That's to be the only fucking excuse I could think of for why these dogs would be this aggressive and this vicious. I want to eat them. Want to eat them out. So what happens is One dumb girl, she gets eaten by the dogs, and then the girls finally get the car to start, but it stalls because it runs out of gas, and they end up what do you know? They find a warehouse or something. They let the dogs in, and they trick them, and they find a way to blow them up, and then they survive. A very shitty night of terror. Which, if I want to watch a movie that deals with dogs, they're attacking people, I'll watch The Pack. It's a much better movie. Fuck, I'll even watch Devil Dog Hound of Hell. This segment's just about as bad as Mongrel or fucking What Dogs with David McCallum. So that segment lasted forever and just really, really was a tedious exercise in boredom. And then we have the third segment where you have Marg Helgenberger, which you're like, what the hell are you doing in this movie? Marg? Really, Marg? Marg Helgenberger of CSI fame. And she plays this character as a radio host. She's filling in for another person. She's got a broken leg. And what do you get? You get a crazy caller. Oh, I haven't seen this before. Some guy on the phone who's crazy calling into a radio station. I know how this is going to end. He's going to end up in the radio station and he's going to hunt after Marg Helgenberg. Of course, it's what happens. It's exactly what happens. It's generic. It's predictable. It's been there, done that. You've seen this story done a million times, and this story doesn't add anything new. I felt bad for Marg Helgenberger. This is one of the few things about the film I like, because I thought she actually did a decent job performance-wise. But she had dick to work with. She had doggy dick to work with, and so this is the result of it. The bad guy is not believable. He's shitty. He's just a crazy guy, crazy kook on a payphone. He calls Marg Helgenberger. She's trying to warn the guy who he has a crush on or something. She calls at her house. She realizes the guy answers, so he strangled her with the phone. Now he's coming for her next. And then the segment ends in the laziest fucking way imaginable before, after there's a decent sort of suspenseful scene where the killer's chasing after her and she's taking her crutch and smashing the lights out. Which is actually kind of a well-shot, kind of decent sequence. But then they go on, and they ended in the laziest, shittiest way imaginable, and you don't even see the killer kill Marg Helgenberger. You just see this fucking shit. Yeah, Helgenberger. Sorry, Helgenberger. My bad. You don't even see the killer kill Marg Helgenberger. You just see her. I think he's inside the house, and the guy says hello, and then it fades to black. I'm not making this shit up. That's how lazy this fucking movie is. And then the final story is just, you have this girl's going to tell the final story. I don't think you're ready for it. And then she talks to the girl, her friend, who's supposed to be psychic, says there's something wrong. And Pee Pants comes in with his axe and tries to get revenge on the teacher. Ties him up, tries to light him on fire. The teacher gets away. And then for some reason, I don't know where the fuck this was explained. I don't know why this guy has demonic powers. I don't know why this guy can survive being burned alive to a fucking skeleton. But that's what happens. He kills Pee Pants with an axe. Then the girls light him on fire. But he survives, is walking around as a Ray Harryhausen skeleton in stop motion with an axe. Which I didn't mind the stop motion effects. It's actually not bad. But it just doesn't make any fucking sense. It just sounds like Jim and Ken Wheat pulled this shit out of their ass. Or out of a fucking oatmeal box. So then the girls run away from the Ray Harryhausen axe. Or Army of Darkness axe skeleton. And just, how do they get rid of him? I don't know, they blow him up or some shit. One chick gets pulled into the fire by some unseen force. Like the teacher, crazy teacher who can survive being burned alive and walking around as an axe-wielding skeleton also has super demonic powers that can suck people into flames, into hell or some shit. It's not explained. It just randomly happens. This girl's holding on the side of the door. There's wind that's pulling her, and she gets pulled into the flames. That's it. And then the girl wakes up. And then this girl wakes up. This psychic bitch over here, she wakes up. And you find out that all these stories, all of his Pee Pants' revenge, the fucking teacher surviving being burned to a crisp, walking around as a skeleton, the two shitty fucking stories that we heard, pretty much two shitty horror, the three actually, I forgot, they're so shitty, 3 shitty horror anthology stories that we saw were all a dream, and then She wakes up, goes to school, meets with her friends, and talk about the psychology fear class they're gonna go to. Then the end of the fucking movie is them just going up the stairs and hearing the teacher calling roll call and credits. And I want to beat the shit out of this fucking movie. I want to beat it into a million fucking pieces. Fuck After Midnight. It's a piece of shit. It's one of the worst horror anthologies I've ever seen. It has barely any redeeming qualities to it. It's cheap. It's low rent. It's got maybe... I didn't mind Marc McClure. I like Marg Helgenberger. I like the one little bit of the stop-motion skeleton, but you do nothing with it. There's no gore. This movie could have easily been PG-13. I don't know why it's rated R. Doesn't even have that. The stories suck. The writing sucks. The directing sucks. And also the score sucks. Everything about this movie is shit, garbage. It's a piss stain. It's a shit stain. It's a terrible excuse for a horror film. And it's a really bad horror anthology. The only thing that is horror about After Midnight is horror in the word horrible. Because After Midnight is a horrible movie.